voice, and our contribution to the development and stability of our nation. We celebrate and appreciate our Constitution as the consensus document that anchors the sovereignty, aspirations, and rights of the people of Kenya. We affirm the constitutional acknowledgement of the equal value of every human being expressed in the Bill of Rights, including the socio-economic and political rights for women, youth, persons living with disabilities, and marginalized communities. We are alarmed, very alarmed, at the escalating trends of violence against women and children. In the last 1 week alone, the country has witnessed horrific murders. These include that of a mother and her 2 children in Laikipia, the rape and cruel dismembering of a lady in Bungoma, and killing of a university student in Kasarani, and many more incidences of femicide. We are deeply concerned at the rising levels of insecurity in homes, workplaces, and relationships. And as a collective of women, we say zero tolerance to gender-based violence. Ladies and gentlemen, we are further saddened to note that the incidences of violence against women have not escaped even the Houses of Parliament, where we have witnessed the violent language and threats against female members of Parliament. We have witnessed violence against female members of Parliament. Parliament ought to be a seat of honor, where the representatives of the people model what it means to respect the Constitution and the rule of law. The women of Kenya condemn such callous behavior in the strongest terms. We are further incensed by the recent reports of the Senate Legal Affairs and Justice Committee, which has purportedly trashed the constitutional provisions on the equality of men and women. The committee is reported in the media to have rejected the bill tabled by Senators Mutula Kilonzo Jr. and Senator Haji Faria Ali, proposing the amendment of Article 97 of the Constitution to give effect to the 2/3 gender principle through the provision of the top-up clause to implement the principle whenever it is required. We completely are unhappy with the report that the Senate Justice and Legal Affairs Committee has given, and we call upon the members of the Senate to really respect constitutional provisions and constitutional imperatives, reminding them that they swore to uphold the Constitution of Kenya. The committee is reported to have stated that the impact of the current crop of nominated women to both the National Assembly and Senate is yet to be felt. Nothing can be further from the truth. The nominated women members, both in the National Assembly and the Senate, are playing their rightful role. In fact, in the Senate, the most active members are the nominated senators. The women representatives are playing their role. All the special seat holders are playing their rightful role. And we need an analysis, we need an assessment. It cannot be careless statements that the women are not, that the current crop of nominated women is not adding value to what we have. We are saying that the women who are in Parliament are adding value. We are working with them. We call on all of them to work with the Common Women Agenda. But as it is now, we are completely happy with the work that they are doing, noting that some are even more active than the male members of Parliament. The committee is reported to have stated that women have now come of age and do not need top-up seats because 3 women were elected as governors and 3 women were elected as senators. 3 women elected as governors out of 47 is 6%. 3 women elected governors out of 47 is 6%. To say that women have come of age when it is 6% is really to misrepresent the truth and to be economical with the truth. We still need the not more than 2/3 gender principle respected. We are enraged at the reports attributed to the Senate committee, and we are seeking audience with this committee on the matters. We want to thank and applaud Senators Mutula Kilonzo and Faria Ali for staying true to their mandate and for being the people's representatives and showing respect for the Constitution and the need to implement the Constitution. We commend the women senators for taking a strong stand against the position of the Senate committee and calling for the resubmission of the bill. The creation of seats for the county women members of the National Assembly and provision for nominated seats has tremendously assisted in improving the representation of women in Parliament. Every legislator is expected to understand the value of having an inclusive society that minds the plight of the marginalized and the excluded, and should be at the forefront in assisting with implementation of the letter and spirit of the Constitution. It is common knowledge that in our history, exclusion of women, girls, and persons with disability, youth, and certain regions is something that happens. And that is why our Constitution sought to cure those issues of inequalities that we had existing. We even created the Equalization Fund to fast-track the development of marginalized regions. We have not had MPs castigate the principle of equality as regards to marginalized sections. They should not castigate the principle of equality as relates to women. The Senate seems to support marginalization of the women of Kenya, and we would want to condemn this in the strongest terms possible. We maintain that the not more than 2/3 gender principle must be fully implemented in accordance with the Constitution. We, as the women of Kenya, would like to affirm our common agenda and reject any schemes to divide us along artificial boundaries and categories. The problems that face us as women are the same and will not allow others to create segments of us. The following is the common women agenda. We celebrate the invaluable and enormous contribution of the women of Kenya, who from independence have made huge sacrifices and contributed to the development of our country. We recognize the role of women in every corner of our nation and the selfless role that they play in keeping the society moving forward. We recognize the importance of safeguarding and protecting the gains in the Constitution of Kenya 2010 for women and other marginalized groups in the national conversations and all spaces. All the conversations going on must safeguard and protect the gains of women in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. We note with concern the ongoing narrative that women are overly represented and contribute to the high wage bill. This is misleading. Women are part of the taxpayers. Women need to be represented. Women are 50.5% of the population. We are not a burden. We are not adding to the wage bill. We call for commitment on implementation of the principle of inclusion, and the need to ensure women's participation remains central and informs every program in this country and every national conversation. We call for greater socio-economic services to improve and relieve women's issues. In particular, we call for more investment in healthcare, and we call for extension of healthcare services to matters that affect women in sexual and reproductive health. We demand urgent action by all actors to end gender-based violence. We ask for zero tolerance to gender-based violence and call on all the actors to end gender-based violence in our country. Sexual gender-based violence, political and electoral violence, femicide, defilement, among others. We want a safe society for our people and for our women and girls. A safe society where vulnerable members of the society, including young girls and persons with disability, are protected in this country. We support the call by the President to end harmful cultural practices, including FGM, by the year 2020. But just to underscore that we have come together to support a common women agenda, women from all walks of life, women from the National Assembly, from the Senate, from the grassroots, from the civil society organizations, from the private sector, from the academia, from the commissions. We are going to work together on a common women agenda. We want to create a tribe of women, and a tribe of women that protects the gains that women have and ensures that those gains are protected and advanced. We thank you. There are representatives from the Senate. I think they will speak first, and then we have the Kewopa chairperson who will also speak.
Of the Kenya Women Senators, Mary Senator, and the requested to speak for the ease of the media.
Just as my other colleague have just said, I'm not going to add much, but I'm also going to read the position of the women senators. The women senators therefore join women leaders and denounce any efforts by either committee of the Senate or the National Assembly in derailing the passage of this important legislation. We also commend the efforts by Senator Mutula Jr. and Senator Farhia Ali in sponsoring this important legislation. The women senators will follow the debates and also reject the recommendation of the committee that the bill also will be rejected by all members of the Senate. Women senators further join in the common agenda on the ongoing debate on the constitutional discourse and demand the following. The law be amended to require registered political parties to nominate at least 1/3 women candidates to participate in the national and county election. An amendment to the law to allow for an all-inclusive system of government that will ensure 50% representation of both gender at the executive, legislative, and the county assembly. And finally, that the law be amended to also allow for specific representation of women in the county assemblies and the National Assembly in addressing marginalization that has existed over the years. We also condemn the same report by the committee, and we want to say that women nominated either in the county assembly, in the National Assembly, or in the Senate are making great values for the citizens of this country. And I want to give my senior colleague, Professor Kamar, to say something on the same.
Madam Senator, you keep it brief because the press will need to leave.
Thank you. I really don't have anything much to add, so it will be very brief. I want to join my colleagues that what the Constitution has provided for cannot just be rubbished by a bill. The Faria Mutula bill was trying to provide for how to implement the Constitution, and we cannot untie we cannot untie that by killing a bill that is positively trying to help us implement what the Constitution provides for. I want to join my colleagues again in saying that the truth about performance needs to be brought out, because for colleagues in Senate to say that the performance of nominated members, be they in the National Assembly or the Senate, is put in question is something that I think the fourth estate should be able to analyze for us. We need to actually look at how performance of everybody is, because that really irritated us as women senators. We felt very upset about that, because if you look at the House, and the press knows that because you cover the House the whole day, the performance of nominated women in the Senate is far much better than the performance of their colleagues. And I want to challenge the press to do an analysis and to present that analysis. Right from when this Senate began, we want to look at attendance, we want to look at motions that have been put forward, we want to look at bills that have been put forward, because sometimes we tell the country something that's not correct at all. And this is one of those that has made us want to have this press to put forward the fact that in most cases, because I sit in the House as a speaker, I can tell you for a fact that your results will prove otherwise. So I would really like to invite that an analysis be done, because the performance of women in this country is extremely good. And I want to add that performance of Uganda improved because of the improvement of women in leadership. The performance of Rwanda improved because of the improvement of the numbers of women in leadership. Today, I dare say, if we improve the numbers of women in leadership positions, not just in the political, but even in other areas, directorates in our ministries, permanent secretaries, CSS, you will see an improvement in this country. And that, I want to say, there, look at the performance of Senate, and you'll be able to get that. Thank you.
Thank you. Purity Ngirichi, who is the chair of KEWOPA. For the purposes of those of us from the press who are going live with this, we just want to clarify, this is a position on a common women's agenda and not on BBI. That's for the benefit of your editors and some of the channels that have got it wrong so far.
Good morning. Speaking on behalf of KEWOPA, that brings together all the women MPs drawn from both National Assembly and the Senate, I wish to state that we will continue to seek to, one, safeguard the gains of women, including the two-thirds gender principle as is envisioned in our Constitution of Kenya. Secondly, we will support the women's common agenda and issues and aspirations of women from across Kenya and continue agitating for the two-thirds and up to 50-50 in the appointive seats. Number three, we will continue to raise concern on the raising gender-based violence and other issues affecting women of Kenya. Parliament will not continue taking it lying down. Women members of Parliament are united in the women agenda.
Thank you very much. As we've mentioned, this is a cross-section of women leaders. Anne Guria is a university student leader. Please take a seat.
We, as the young women of this society, are here to call upon every person in Kenya to think about the people that are being killed, the people that are facing gender-based violence. Just last week, we heard of a lady who was killed in Kasarani. A girl from Kibabi University was raped and later maimed. I am asking and I am calling, as the youth and as the young women leaders in this country, we are calling upon each and every person to think about this person that you're about to hurt. Could be someone's daughter, someone's mother, someone's sister. Think about your sisters, think about your parents, think about your daughters. Would you want them to face the same things that you're about to do to this young person? We are calling upon all stakeholders to take action, that whenever any case is reported about gender-based violence, something is actually done. I am calling Kenya, and I'm calling upon Kenya to have a policy that there is zero tolerance for gender-based violence. Thank you.
Thank you. And Professor Kabira? And this will be our final formal address before we open it up to questions from you.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to say very much because Professor Kamar has said what I had, some of the things that I had in mind. But I wanted to say that having read the decision of the Committee of the Senate, the women of this country have been shocked by it. First of all, the arguments are tired arguments. Nobody argues anymore that the women can just be elected like everybody else. I think that provision is in line with the Equalization Fund, with the decisions about dropping 1 point so that you can have more girls in schools. And this is something that has been discussed for close to 25 years. So we think that they need to relook at their arguments because they don't add up. We have discussed this for many, many years as women of this country. The other thing is that the gender rule is not really anything new in Kenya. It has been going on forever. I suggest that they have a conversation with Kibaki, who actually gave the first 1/3 rule in relation to appointments many years ago when he was still the president, and it was to increase women in leadership. So I think they need to probably look at our history and see that this is not a new phenomenon. And it is what is happening all over Africa. That is what Rwanda has used, it is what Uganda has used, it's what South Africa has used, it is what Tanzania used, and actually Tanzania's affirmative action began with Nyerere. So it is actually the whole continent recognizing, including Somalia, by the way, including Somalia, which has also used the same, and Sudan. They have all used the provision of affirmative action in order to increase women's representation, because they know where we are going. And if you look at what is happening in Rwanda, for instance, we are still having, Rwanda is doing much better, even on gender equality, than us. I think the Senate has many more things to do. For instance, they started with food security, which was launched by Beatrice Elachi in the previous parliament. The same food security came, and I thank Murkomen for tabling it, which is now in National Assembly. But we think with 7 million Kenyans going hungry, we need to make sure that food security in this country is addressed. All the issues that we have talked about have been addressed, gender-based violence and so on. So I think they need to rethink that position, and so should, the National Assembly.
My
Thank
apologies.
you.
One more comment from Senator Msurube, who of course also represents persons with disability.
Thank you very much. I'm Senator Msurube, representing persons with disabilities. And I want to say that from the disability angle, we are actually in agreement with what the wider society is saying with regard to our fellow women, that yes, we are talking about many voices with one message, that we really want our gains to be safeguarded. And even when we're talking about against to be safeguarded, it has to be very clear, even in political parties, that representation of women with disabilities is really, really wanting. And many times when political parties are talking about, are thinking about women, they don't consider and they don't remember that marginalized woman. And I want to say, even a point in case, there's some counties without PWD representation, meaning that women with disabilities cannot speak their own issues, cannot have a voice. And I want to say before the media that, and for all Kenyans to know, that women with disabilities also want to have a voice in the decision making, so that we are not just represented, we are supposed to be seen and heard, so that we also help in development of this country. So I want to say that there's need for us to be remembered, even as we are talking about bringing women on board, even as we are talking about the 50-50 representation. Let us also ask ourselves as women, even if we are going on board, how many women with disabilities are we bringing on board? Because we've reached a situation where we are saying no and no again. We want a different game as women with disabilities. We do not want to be a burden to this country, but we want to be part of the women who are really helping in decision making, who are really helping in developing this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are about to open up the session for Q&A, which will be chaired by Honorable Nyokabi. But let me just make special note of the fact that, as we mentioned, it's a cross-section of women leaders, and Professor Riria represents women in business and women working at the grassroots level. I would request that you may pose any questions to her, and then the session will be chaired by Honorable Nyokabi.
Thank you.
In your statement, this question is answered by you spoke about vision and not collaborating with divided. But already you are divided with regards to Team Embrace and Team Inua. How do you forge ahead? Because you were in a previous donation, is this something that came up, or have you been able to discuss? Are you going to be seeing more of you in these two things? Because you've actually even said very nasty things about each other in this meeting.
I think we take 2 or 3 questions and answer them together as Dr. Ridia comes on.
Sio mara ya kwanza mswada huu kuwasilishwa bungeni, umewasilishwa karibu wiki, mswada ambao kwa sasa tutakuwa mswada mara ya 5 nadhani, na kila mara unapowasilishwa matokeo ni yale yale. Sijui ni nini hasa mnafanya tofauti kuhakikisha kwamba mara hii mnafikia kile ambacho mnataka katika mswada huu.
Asante. Swali la mwisho.
During the vigil we had at your end earlier in the year, one of the things that women leaders said they would advocate for is development of safe housing for women who have been affected by GBV. So I would like to ask the progress of that and other things that women leaders are actively doing to make sure that GBV comes to an end. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Emma from Ebro TV. Maybe Kenyans will be asking, why just a day to the release of the BBI report? And then I do understand that we did have a section of the Embrace leaders did appear before the BBI. Did you articulate these issues to the Building Bridges Initiative, at least to be included in the report? Or because I understand that one of the recommendation was expanding an executive, did you include about the gender parity?
Thank you. I think we answered those ones first. I want us to share the questions. So Dr. Riria will speak first, say something about the women economic empowerment, and then we answer the questions. There is the question for Embrace and Inua Mama, which we will take. There is the question of the 5th bill, the 5th time that this is the 5th effort. There is a question on the femicide vigil, and there's a question on Embrace. I think the Embrace members are here, so we might need someone to answer for the Embrace, but it's okay. We'll be able to answer the questions that have been asked. Yes, sir. So let Dr. Riria speak first, and then I'll come on.
Members of the press, you have heard women are with one agenda, and that agenda includes women living in the counties, women living in the villages. They are part of this. Their voice is being heard. You have heard. Women are speaking with one voice about those issues that have kept them away from where decisions are made. Women are saying they are not going to accept anything that is decided for them outside the tables where they are sitting. So those issues, and they impact very heavily on women living in the counties, women living with disabilities, women living in the villages. Those issues will be followed seriously to make sure that they're in legislative areas and in the practical areas. Some of these have been mentioned, and I'm not going to deal with that anymore, but I think one of the most important things is to put finance on women living in poverty in the villages. That has to be followed. It has to be put in legislative tables, but women must be on the table where decisions are made. And this is the voice of Kenyan women.
On the questions that have come on, the first one from Mureithi on Embrace and Inua Mama, and they are having divisions. While it is indeed true that there have been different factions of women, both in Embrace and Inua Mama, the women are now coming together with one agenda. And first, the existence of women groups in politics is not a bad thing. It is not something that should be regretted. There are many male groups. In fact, the male groups are more than 2. There are many male groups in different factions, Kieleweke, Tanga. Nobody is complaining about the male groups. Women are equally diverse. Women have diverse points of view. And so existence of Embrace and Inua Mama, for the first time, we have women-only rallies. We have women able to conduct rallies and to address different issues and concerns. But what we are now saying with the Common Women Agenda is that it will unite all the women. We might have differences on other matters, but on matters of women, we are united. On matters of women, we are united. On matters of women, we will fight from the same corner. On protecting the gains of women, we will fight from the same corner. On protecting our space, we will fight from one corner. On protecting and fighting gender-based violence, we are fighting from one corner. Other matters, whoever we support, those are different issues. But the common women agenda. On the many efforts for the bill, I think it's you never say die. So we have to continue bringing these bills until they pass in our parliament. And so to support the effort from Mutula Jr., Senator Mutula Jr. and Senator Faria, and to say that the Senate, remember the other 4 efforts have largely been at the National Assembly. We had the Sijenyi bill in the last parliament, in the last Senate, and so this time we have another effort in the Senate. And these efforts are important, and we want to congratulate the members who are making these efforts. Even if the bills have not passed, we will continue until they pass. The Assembly and the Senate are institutions of Kenya. They need to respect the Constitution. We may be down, but we are not out. We may be down, but we are not out. On the safe houses and the femicide, one of our biggest call is for a sex crimes unit, that the police, the Inspector General of Police, the Interior Ministry, the courts, the DPP, we need accelerated prosecution in gender-based violence cases. The effort we see on the fight against corruption is the effort we want to see on the fight against gender-based violence. And so that unit that handles the prosecution of cases is important. But on the other side is also the creation of safe houses, and we are following in the budget processes to ensure that there are sufficient budgetary allocations. The Ministry of Gender now has policy on gender-based violence, and we hope that that policy receives the funding that it requires so that some of those matters can be addressed, the safe houses in particular. But more important for us is the prosecution, is the incarceration, and even bail, how bail is addressed. We want to see a good fight against gender-based violence. We call on the DPP, we call on the IG. Kindly, as you put attention to the fight against corruption, put attention to the fight against gender-based violence, and let's see prosecution, and more important, let's also see convictions, and let us see real punishment for people who are violating women. On the memorandum that was given to the BBI, it is indeed true, not just embrace maendeleo ya wanawake, the steering committee of women, the ministry, the National Gender and Equality Commission. Many groups of women did actually take views to the BBI team. And so while it is coincidental that we are doing this just a day before the report is released, it is indeed true to say that the women's agenda was presented to the BBI task force. And we are waiting for the report like everybody else. Tomorrow is a big day. We will read the report. We will quickly look at the women gains in that report. We will audit it for where it advances the women gains, and then we will come back and address you after we all read the report, as the President has advised us. And also, just lastly, there is a rule we are calling the opposite gender rule. If you look at that Senate committee, if you have a chairman who is male, you need a vice chair who is female. When the men are speaking to themselves, they don't understand these things. Wanasema tu vitu lose, ati women are not contributing, while the data, if you looked at the Hansard, you will actually see the contribution of women in parliament. You can't just rise up and say women are not contributing without the benefits of the data. So we want, where the chairman is male, the vice chair is female, so that we are able to nasaidiana how we look at these matters as a society. And we are hoping that in the processes that go on, that opposite gender rule, just as you have the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice as male and female of the opposite gender rule, we hope that that will also be done, and not just at national level, at every committee, even a village committee, where the chairman is male, the deputy is female. Where the CEO is male, the deputy CEO is female, so that we can both take care and take charge of our destiny as a country. And you look at countries where gender equality is respected, those countries have higher GDPs. This has been proved. The economy of India grew when the women were allowed to take part in economic activities. The economy of Rwanda, the economies of developed countries, the Nordic countries, it is because women are playing their rightful role. 50% is the rightful role that we want. If our country allows women
to play their rightful role, we will really be able to advance faster on economic developments and on political developments. But for today, it is Common Women Agenda. Many voices, many voices,
one message.
Common Women
Agenda.
Common Women
Agenda.
The men should listen. The voices they hear, those are women coming.
Perhaps we could take a final round of questions. Or do you want Honorable Ngirichi to respond? Yes. That's fair.
Thank you very much. I want once again to reiterate and repeat and say that Honorable Commissioner Nyokabi has excellently given you the answer to what you ask. But I will also urge you to go and ask for the mission statements and the vision of the both teams. Then you will realize 90% of it is the women's voice and the what women need, what we need to do for the women of this country. We talked about economic empowerment, we talked about representation, we talked about we also talked about the gender violence. This is what we have been dealing with. The rest is sideshows, and you know what? It has to be there. It is politics. Thank you.
Commissioner, a final round of questions? All right, at that point, we want to thank you very, very much for according women this opportunity. We also want to urge you not to push their issues to the back page and stickers. Yes. Let's change the narrative, and I thank you very, very much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.